Hey, it's February the 15th, 2022, and you know why you're here, so let's kick this off right and introduce the players. Hey, I am Gerissar, a PvP Padawan. Big Moran isn't here because he's off spending some time with the family time with the parents and whatnot. But hey, we have Swapxy, the 3 times BlizzCon champion, multiple rank 1 shaman. Hey, Swapxy, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Hey everyone, how are you guys doing?
Indeed, and I have to admit, I really appreciate it because it's like 2 o'clock in the morning right now for you, right?
I just finished an arena session and just hopped into the Discord to join you. And
Appreciate
now it's time to talk about Shaman, I guess, a little bit.
a little bit. Well, all right, I have to ask then. The session you just finished, were you playing shaman or were you playing an alt?
I wish I would be playing my Shaman, but actually I kind of re-rolled to Boomy, the Moonkin, for this season, as performance-wise, it just just a few notches above the Elemental right now.
Yeah, it's a little. So Necro, are you playing
Or
Necro
for
Boomy or?
Moonkin?
Yeah.
No, that's not. Everyone plays Kyrian right now
Oh, okay.
to buff their Necro Covenant teammates, the Demon Hunters, the Warriors, and so on, which are all Necrolord. You buff them with the Kyrian, they
Mm-hmm.
get huge amounts of verse.
Yeah, and then they just own.
They just wreak havoc and go to town on the enemy.
Indeed. Well, I guess we shouldn't have to talk about you too much. I mean, I kind of talked you up when you first joined, when I first introduced you. But is there anything, if you were to give somebody a an elevator pitch about who is Swapxy, what would you tell them?
Um, well, I've come from Germany, 29 years old, as of last week. It was my birthday last week.
Oh, happy birthday!
I thank you. I've been playing WoW since the Burning Crusade, like 1 or 2 weeks before the Burning Crusade came out. I started leveling. Been playing Warlock and Shaman ever since, pretty much without a break.
Wow.
Um, been playing competitively, or at least trying to be competitive for the majority of that time span. And you can find me streaming on twitch.tv/Swapxy if you want to go there. I stream occasionally. No, not
Right.
the most consistent streamer, but that's what I like to do.
Awesome.
Play WoW with my friends.
So I actually have to ask you. You've been around, like I said, for quite a while. Um, I noticed most recently in these last couple of expansions, a lot of people over on social media and that have been talking about how all their friends are quitting WoW and they're having a hard time finding friends in that. But you sounds like you still have quite a number of friends you're still playing with. Have you run into that where you've noticed a bunch of people quitting? Have you had to make new friends, or are you still playing with people that you've known for years, really?
I mean, definitely there's a bunch of friends and like really close teammates over the years that I wish they were still playing, but they're not. I mean, like just Bota, my longtime teammate that I've won many tournaments with. He gave Shadowlands a try, but he is like on and off, like playing maybe like a month and then kind of quitting again. And there's
Huh,
many more. Just to name him as an example, there's a lot of people on my friend list that have not been online for many months.
that's unfortunate.
So I mean, there's always some people that play. There's some that don't. You maybe find some new faces here and there. Every season, there's some new young blood trying to make their way
All right,
into the PvP scene. So sometimes, if someone is nice, I will add him or he will add me, and then play some games.
awesome. I think that's one of the best parts about the game is making some new friends all the time, and it's unfortunate that friends come and go, but the fact that you can still make new ones and keep pushing, which is really awesome. I
Yeah,
guess.
totally
Oh,
agree. Like WoW is definitely about the people you meet along the way,
oh yeah,
not as much about the game itself.
exactly. It's it's that whole MMO side is the reason why I stick around. So
Yeah.
I have to ask then, aside from playing some a session of threes tonight, what have you been up to for the last 2 weeks? Just playing threes or doing anything else?
Well, there's some private. I mean, I wouldn't say private, but it's like some personal other goals I've been working on, trying to get that done.
Okay,
And yeah, the lockdown situation in Germany is like really good now, so everything is back up, opened up. Been trying to get in shape again, do
good,
like some regular workouts again, and yeah.
good, good.
Besides that, playing a lot of WoW every day, trying to stay in shape.
All right. It sounds like some pretty good goals, though. Physical fitness is always important. You're better than I because here in Canada, it's been bloody cold lately. So I've been just staying inside and not really doing much other than sitting. If I'm either sitting at my computer working or sitting at my computer playing World of Warcraft. So you're an inspiration to me to get off my butt and
I
actually.
you make that sound very nice, but I might not be that that good of an inspiration in that regard either. I certainly could do much better myself.
Fair enough. I think that's always the hardest thing is going at it. Yeah, getting away and doing the workout, doing the exercise. Um, I will say I've had quite a bit of fun. I took my Draenei Paladin and joined another guild over on my server. He was in like a dead alt guild. With some old friends and that. So I found a new guild and we've been having fun pushing Mythic Pluses. So I had an absolute blast last night. Actually, we went in to do Plaguefall. It was a Plaguefall 11, but the
Hmm.
healer was still kind of learning how to heal on a Resto Druid, and we finished it. It was 45 minutes long, so well over time, and I think I think we had over 18 deaths by the time we were done. Like there was some
Oh,
significant wipes. It was fun.
sounds all right to me. As long as the key is done and you get your loot, I don't mind.
Yeah, exactly.
The
I
only thing I really dislike in BFA, I was grinding like mythic dungeons like every week for the box, as you kind of had to as a PvPer.
hmm
And the worst feeling was always if something went wrong, you die the first pull, and then someone just randomly leaves. As long as you complete the dungeon, it's all good for me.
Exactly. Yeah. No levers. Dang it.
No lever, yeah, weekly no lever.
Well, I'm a little too chicken to really do anything over a 5 out of LFG. I might do it now. I feel a little bit more confident, but I definitely don't have any problem taking my guildies and dragging them through as a tank and making them scream at me. But it was pretty fun. But all
Yeah.
right. Well, I guess let's roll into the need, greed, and pass here and see what. Although Big Moran isn't here, he actually gave me his need, greed, and pass for this week, which was really awesome. So let's get that
Okay.
going.
This likely won't be a clean fight, so keep your distance, eh?
Indeed. So, just as a reminder, for those listening at home and those listening live right now on Twitch, how this works is I'm going to be posing a scenario to everybody with three options, and it's going to be related to WoW. And us as the participants, and again, those at home can play along. Will decide on which one they will need on, which one they'll greed on, and which one they're going to pass on. So let's hilarity commence as we will decide on what we'll need, greed, and pass. So the scenario for this one is imagine elemental shamans could get an additional PvP talent from the other specs. So the three options you can choose from will be Voodoo Mastery, which reduces the cooldown on Hex, Shamanism, which allows the shaman to use Bloodlust on themselves and a partner, or Earth Grab Totem, which would root all targets within 8 yards for 8 seconds. So Swapxy, I'm going to ask you first. Which one would you need, which one would you greed, and which one would you pass?
Well, that's quite easy. I would need the Earth Grab. I would greet the Shamanism, the Bloodlust, and I would pass on the Voodoo Mastery.
Oh, that was that was super fast. All right. So just fill me in. What's the thinking behind all those, if you don't mind?
I mean, the origin of Earth Grab is elemental in Wrath of the Lich King, right? That's where it was introduced. And nowadays, for some unknown reason, I'm not sure why, Earth Grab is exclusive to Restoration Shaman, which it was not originally where it came from. So in my mind, in my heart or whatever, if that makes sense, it's an elemental spell that belongs to elemental, and it's not there right now. So I really would like to see it come back,
That makes sense.
rather than just staying to a spec where it doesn't really belong in the first place, which is Resto. In Legion, it was available to all 3 specs. It would be a talent you could pick, but that is gone now too. So now it's and then Shamanism. Well, Shamanism, like the Bloodlust honor talent, like applied to the current situation in PvP. I guess it could work. I mean, myself, I see myself being quite a lot, and Shamanism costs like 25% of your mana. So I'm not sure if you could fit that into your rotation properly. Like that's why enhancement, they have access to Shamanism, but you don't even play it for like many months already because it costs too much mana now.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if this is common knowledge, but there was a bug, I would say, or an oversight for 5 years that if you pressed Heroism on an Alliance Shaman, it would cost mana, but if you press Bloodlust on an Horde Shaman, it costs 0 mana.
I had no idea.
So that's why all the enhancement shaman, they're all Horde, because Bloodlust didn't cost any mana, so therefore you had all your mana left to purge and heal and do whatever you want. And like recently in Shadowlands, this was fixed, and ever since then, there's no more Bloodlust for Shaman in Arena, because it's simply too expensive.
Huh.
And the Voodoo Mastery, I just don't see the value there for Elemental.
Okay. Interesting. See, I like the idea of Voodoo Mastery, and that's one I was going to need on, because I could see that being advantageous if you have a lower cooldown on Hex. Then you might be able to start hexing outside of other cooldown rotations, right? So I've noticed a lot with PvP where a lot of the like the CCs and the cooldowns and other counters all seem to kind of there's certain time frames that all line up. So I was thinking if you take Voodoo Mastery, then you could maybe hex a bit more often and get in between those cracks, if you will.
I would have to lock on my Shaman now to actually check one thing. I actually have to check myself. Is the current cooldown, because Voodoo Mastery gives you 20 seconds reduction on Hex, so now I have to check what's the base cooldown. Because in some expansion it's 20 seconds, in some expansion it was 30. So let me check. It's 20 seconds right now. So Voodoo Mastery would make it a 0-second cooldown. So I guess you could do like a mage cosplay, if that makes sense, and just spam poly on everyone.
Exactly.
That it kind of makes sense now that I think about it twice.
Okay.
There could be there could be value there. This could be decent, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I was going to need on that for that reason. Definitely agreed on the Earth Grab Totem. I mean, who doesn't want to have a root? And I was going to pass on the shamanism, because I didn't even know about the mana part, but I guess I don't know. I guess the shamanism, you could see it could be advantageous depending on the comp you're playing, but I can't see. I don't know. It just doesn't seem.
It would line up nicely though with your cooldowns. You have Shamanism on a 1-minute cooldown, and then you have Stormkeeper on a 1-minute cooldown. It would kind of give you those modifiers you can stack together. You can Bloodlust yourself and maybe you're playing with a Fire Mage, Bloodlust Combust, sounds pretty scary.
That does.
You have it for yourself, Heroism and Bloodlust, and then Stormkeeper. There's some. It would line up nicely, but I was also thinking it in such a way that like what would fit to an Elemental Shaman, like what spell are you supposed to have? That's how I was also thinking about it.
That's a good point. Good point.
That's why Earth Grab was at the very top, because in my mind that belongs to Elemental and not to Restoration and Enhancement.
That makes. I totally understand your point of view. That not having played a shaman back then, I didn't even think of that. So interesting. Well, once again, I guess for those at home, you know how to get a hold of us. If you want to send us in your thoughts on this Need, Greed, and Pass, you can head on over to our Discord, or you can just tweet us at technically_PvP and let us know which one you would need, greed, and pass. In the meantime, let's do a quick rundown of the upcoming WoW PvP events segment, and then we'll move into the actual reason why we're here, which is the subject analysis.
Get in there and fight! Stop hiding!
Indeed. So I will say, it's actually kind of a short list. I'm not aware of many community events coming up in the next month or so. Again, Dalaran Gaming is always doing his 5v5 1v1s. I don't know if Flark is going to be doing any more tournaments in the near future. I know he did one at the last week, which we'll talk about in what's happened. But otherwise, the only thing I'm aware of is the actual official Blizzard events, with the Classic Arena tournament happening actually this weekend. Qualifiers were last weekend offline, but this weekend is going to be the casted part. And then starting in March, we're going to be rolling into the Arena World Cup, or the Arena World Championship Cups. So I have to ask, Swapxy, being originating from the Burning Crusade, how excited are you about the Burning Crusade Classic tournament this weekend?
Well, just because I originate from the Burning Crusade doesn't necessarily mean it's my favorite expansion.
Okay.
I might be watching the finals if I think. My prediction would be that Chanimal, Minpoike, and Mia might win. That's my prediction. So I'll probably watch those. Not the entire bracket, but the final is always fun to watch.
Indeed.
And there's one team in the lower bracket, I believe, which actually plays Turbo, which I kind of I like Turbo. I think a lot of people kind of know that I am a big fan of Enhancement Shaman and Turbo. So I think it's Warwicks, who usually plays Warlock. He's playing Enhancement, so I'm going to be rooting for them too. And yeah, it will be interesting to see who comes out on top. Maybe there will be a surprise.
Indeed. I think you have a pretty solid pick there. Minpoike and Chanimal is that's a scary match to go up against. I have to ask, sorry, and yeah, that was a complete assumption that you might have some fond memories of Burning Crusade. But what was your favorite expansion, buddy?
That's a really hard question. I get that question a lot when I stream too, because people they have like their own favorite picks and they like to compare what other people think.
Yeah.
My answer is like this. I don't want to pinpoint on a singular expansion, but rather, in my opinion, I'm really focused on Arena and PvP, and there's some comms that are just very fun at certain times of the game, like in different expansions. So I am a very big fan of Elemental Shaman in Legion. I think it was the most fun iteration. Okay. And Elemental Mist of Pandaria was also very nice to play. And Enhancement, also very nice, and Warlords of Draenor to play. And in Cataclysm and Mob, also very fun. But I think that the general trend is that I would say that the expansions between Wrath the Lich King, and then Legion, Elemental, this middle section, if that makes sense. That was my favorite part. But I couldn't pinpoint a singular expansion.
That's a good answer. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, where if you stick to one class, you always have an expansion where it wasn't as much fun as others. but definitely if you look at different specs or are willing to play other classes, then you'll definitely have fun in pretty much every expansion, depending on how you like the play style. All right, well, let's roll into the subject analysis then, and actually get into this and figure out what makes Elemental Shaman so damn good.
I'm gonna light you up, sweet cheeks.
Indeed. So, Swapxy, I mean, you have 3 high-ranked shaman on the ladder right now. I think one's at 2,900 and 2 are over 3K. But yeah, here you're playing Boomkin. So I have to ask, if it really came down to it, what would you tell somebody a reason to play Elemental Shaman in 9.1? Oh, actually 9.2, because that's just around the corner, right?
I'm happy you're asking 9.2 because I couldn't give a reason to play it in 9.1.5, honestly.
Ooh. All right.
Yeah. But I have very high hopes for 9.2. Mainly the double legendary combo that you have available for Elemental is going to feel very nice. Playing with a bunch of haste every time you press Primordial Wave is going to feel nice. It doesn't mean it's the best legendary in the game, but it's certainly going to feel fun to use. And the tier set, the tier set in combination with the double legendary, making the gameplay a little bit faster. I think I have really high hopes for Elemental because of this synergy I see there.
Okay.
So what my prediction is, if I should elaborate on that quick,
please.
Right now what you play Skybreakers, Fiery Demise, which makes your Fire Elemental it's almost active the entire game. But with the 2-piece and the 4-piece of the set bonus, you're gonna have Fire Elemental active the entire game, the entire battle. If it's 2v2 or 3v3 or in a BG, whatever, you're gonna have the Fire Elemental active the entire game, start to finish. And while your Fire Elemental is active, you're gonna do 20% more damage with Lava Burst, which is your main source of damage. So that just sounds awesome in my mind.
That sounds epic.
That cannot be bad. That sounds. I see the potential there, so that's why I have high hopes for Elemental.
I have to ask, just because again, I have my own personal thoughts on this, but I'm wondering what are your thoughts on the whole raid tier sets? Are you? It sounds like you're very excited about getting it for Elemental Shaman. How excited are you for playing against some of the other classes, other specs, and other bonus sets?
If I were to change the system the way I want, there would be a separate set for PvP and a separate set for PvE, and therefore it can be better. I think Blizzard is sometimes taking away their. I'm not sure how to express it in English, but their tuning points, their tuning buttons. I think it needs to be separate for PvE and PvP, so you can fine tune it better, and then it would be more fun for the specific ways you can play WoW.
Yeah, I don't disagree there. I feel bad for anybody who doesn't have ability to actively raid and PvP in order to farm the gear. That I think with how much gear matters and just the way the meta is right now, I feel like there's going to be at least initially, there's definitely going to be the haves and have-nots until all the catch-up mechanic stuff starts rolling through and everybody can start making their or they get really lucky on the Great Vault and happen to get a tier piece drop there. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right. So, I mean, really, we haven't talked about Elemental Shaman since 8.2. So here we are, like literally a whole expansion, plus patches later. What's the difference about Elemental Shaman from BFA to Shadowlands? Because what really made, or has there really been anything that's changed on the spec?
I would say the issue is that no, not a whole lot changed.
All right. Well, that was simple.
I mean,
Okay.
I would jump back there if you go to Legion, which is before BFA.
Mhm.
I think Legion Legion Elemental, as I said, was my favorite out of all Elemental iterations.
Mhm.
And then in BFA, the spec got a little bit butchered, I would say. And then going into Shadowlands, not a whole lot changed. So I would say Elemental is still fun to me, and I'm sure to a lot of others too. But I would like to see it to get some love and some changes.
All right. Okay. I want to ask you what those changes would be, but I think I kind of want to wait till the end when we talk about the thing you would change. We always do that at the end of this little segment. But I guess, let's switch this up a little bit and to get kind of a better idea, so myself and definitely the listeners can get an understanding of this. How do you play an elemental shaman? Like what are you doing from I guess from the gates open to I don't know, to wherever you feel like you've hit kind of like a that stasis moment where everything just kind of ends up being that next go or the next setup or something like that. What's that like? What are you doing?
It depends a bit on your play style and what comp you're playing yourself, but let's just say, or give me an example of a comp. Like, what are your teammates as the elemental? Who are you playing with?
Okay, well let's do some threes. So
Hmm.
ooh. You talked about Fire Mage before, so let's say you're doing Ellie, Fire, and I don't know, a healer, Resto Druid.
Yeah, Holy Priest would be the go-to
Oh,
pick right now because
okay,
you need the mage and the priest to carry you
of course.
with what they can do together.
All right. I just
Yeah.
goes,
So
it goes to show up that I played that
well,
spell.
generally speaking, as elemental, the first thing you want to do is press Flame Shock because that is where everything stems from, basically, or comes from. You put up Flame Shock,
Mhm.
you hope for procs, and you get your damage going. But yeah, you want to summon your Fire Elemental early because Fire Elemental greatly empowers your Flame Shock. It doubles the duration. It gives you additional haste on the Flame Shock, and yeah, so you wanna pop your Fire Elemental. You wanna get Flame Shock up on as many targets as possible, and then depending who your mage CCs and who you wanna go for, who do you wanna try to get low, you press your Primordial Wave, you press your Echoing Shock, which gives you a bunch of additional lava bursts or a bunch of additional earth shocks or lightning bolts if you press Stormkeeper, and then you try to connect the damage to the team on that target. Maybe
All
you
right.
do lasso in between, before or after. Depends. If you play with the Holy Priest usually stuns for you, so you don't have to cast lasso. You can do the damage yourself, and then you might follow up with the DR lasso. But this is how a go might look like: summon your elemental, get a bunch of flame shocks out, communicate with your team who you want to go on, press your primordial wave, your echoing shock, you do some big burst into the Chestai stun. That's what the Holy Priest stun is called. Maybe you do a DR lasso, and yeah, maybe you force a cooldown, or maybe you score a kill, and then you just rinse repeat. And in
All right.
between those goals, you mainly purge, you mainly frost shock, you throw out some off fields and utilize your ghost wolf. If you have to run around, you have to kite. Maybe you have to kite, run away, and
Okay.
that's what you do as elemental nowadays. And for a long time, that's what you do. You just kind of do those things.
All right. And so you're saying like in the off goes, so obviously then you're probably looking to stop the opposing team's goes. I guess what would you be doing then to help peel for your teammates or to stop a go?
Or be aware of your position and your teammate's position.
Okay.
Look at your grounding and your windshield cooldown. Communicate with your teammates what needs to be dropped. If, let's say, you face Rogue Mage or you face Jungle, and your healer gets stunned into a poly or gets stunned into a trap, then you will try to ground those, you try to windshield those. If you can do it, great. If you can't, maybe you need to throw out some off fields on your team or maybe on yourself. and try to get the control of the situation, and then you just keep going. You go back into the offensive mindset where you do your go, and then you might it's like taking turns. You do something, they do something, and just rinse repeat until eventually someone wins or loses the game.
Fair enough. And I guess so we talked about that one with the holy priest and with a fire mage. Does that change? Like, is it still a either you stun first or somebody on your team stuns and then you go into the lightning lasso while doing a bunch of bursts? Or does that setup change depending on who your other teammates are?
I think it's very situational. There's no like cookie cutter way of doing it. I mean, generally speaking, I like to. I don't like to be the one stunning as elemental because there's a lot of counterplay to lasso. You can trinket it, you can get interrupted, you can get knocked away, maybe you can get feared, etc., and then the stun is gone. If you chastise or you hammer of justice someone or you sheep shot or kidney shot someone, that stun is not bound to a channel. Like lasso is a channel, like arcane missile, so it's very easy to do something about the channel. Like even a priest can just can leap of fate. For example, leap of fate is a very good counter to lasso. You can just grip the target out of range of the channel because lasso is only 20 yards. So in a good go for the elemental, you would have someone else stun for you, because sadly lasso also got nerfed a bunch of times, so the damage is not that crazy. Like previously, it was percentage based, so every lasso would always do, I think it was 45% of the target's maximum HP, which was a lot of damage. But nowadays it has spell power scaling. The spell power scaling is not that crazy, and it's just more damage to cast Lava Burst or Stormkeeper during a go than lassoing someone. And lasso is usually you like Stormkeeper, Lava Burst, Earthshock into the stun, and then maybe you do a Dia lasso at the end so the enemy cannot press defensives.
Okay. Wow. There's a lot to unpack there. I'm just trying to think about it all. So obviously, that's your stuff, and then at the same time, your teammates are doing a lot of other things. And then, I guess, are you always looking for teammates that have, I guess, similar cooldown time frames so that your cooldowns and theirs sync up, so then you have a regular go schedule? Or I guess really that leads in what kind of what are the classes and the specs that you're really looking to team up with then for your
elemental right now, the best performing comms you can play right now, you can play with a fire mage, you can play with a moonkin, or you can play with the mortal strike class. So mortal strike class is like a really broad term. You can play with a warrior, you can play with a DH, you can play with a windwalker. Not so much with a hunter, but mortal strike plus elemental, it's really good overall damage. With a mortal strike, you can win on mana, you can win on pressure, and so on. And boomkin, the Kyrian boomkin, very nice, because every minute when you have Stormkeeper, the boomkin can empower you, giving you a bunch of bonus damage. I'm not sure exactly how much bonus damage you get from the Kyrian ability, but you get 16% verse, you get 15% increased damage, and then you have the PvP scaling on the 2-piece on the trinkets. You get 40% additional versa. So at the end of the day, I would just say a random number, you might have 40% increased damage during that window where you get empowered by the boomkin. And if you get empowered on your Stormkeeper once every minute, you have like a really scripted, you have a good go once a minute.
That's good.
That's good, yeah. 40% more damage every minute together with a teammate. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, the other class you named there, I mean, Boomkin, Arms Warrior, Windwalker, DH, I mean, the damage that those classes put out too isn't much to sneeze at. Like, so even if you're getting shut down, they're able to still pressure too, right? So that makes for a really strong team.
There's some nice synergy when you're playing elemental. Many times you're the target of choice, but you have Ghost Wolf and you have very nice mobility. You can kite around the map. You can kite. I really like to play with a warrior actually and play against other melee teams because
Mhm.
I think it's just a lot of fun to kite around the melees while my warriors, taking them apart basically. And then I still do my damage with my instant lava bursts and just by spraying flame shock. So then it's more a war of nutrition rather than doing ghosts, where with a fire
Yeah.
mage you need to do really good ghosts to win. If you play with a boomkin, you can win on mana, but you also kind of need to do good ghosts like once every minute to win. And with a warrior, it's really like a war of nutrition, which I just really like. I just like to be
Okay.
targeted and run around and kite my opponents,
I guess
which is also
that's
the
quite
charm of Elemental, in my opinion. It's
okay.
just really nice to utilize your mobility and your thunderstorm and run around the map.
All right. So I guess that goes to say like that itself is its own talent, like having that skill to be able to kite around really well. Do you have any tips or tricks or anything you would like to impart on anybody listening right now about kiting as a shaman?
Into melee specifically.
Sure.
Tell your teammate to slow them for you, make your life a little bit easier. If they're not slowing you, if they're not slowing for you, they might be making your life very hard. Sadly, Flame Shock is on a 6-sec cooldown, so what you want to do is you press Flame Shock, and then if I'm getting tunneled by melees, I just immediately go Ghost Wolf and keep running until I have an instant Lava Burst proc or my Flame Shock comes back off cooldown. So you just optimize your global usage in that way.
Okay.
If you don't have an instant Lava Burst available, if you don't have Flame Shock available, then you're not going to stand there and cast Lightning Bolt. That doesn't do anything. So you just press Ghost Wolf, you run away, and wait for like Elemental is not is a how do you say this in English? It's like you go with the flow. You react based on what happens. You get a proc, you get this, you do something. If the procs are not happening, then you just maybe just stay in Ghost Wolf for a while and keep running, or wait for your Flame Shock to come back, and
Wow.
then you keep running.
That to my brain that's so counterintuitive because I'm always like always be pressing something, always be casting. But literally it sounds like with shaman you have to be okay with like there's some times when you just won't be casting. Like you just have to wait. That seems so weird to me.
I mean, there's like a common trend in Shadowlands and also in
Mhm.
BFA already and in some other expansions that your filler spells, like in a raid scenario, on a mythic dungeon scenario, like certain spells are like classified as fillers. And
Yeah.
for Elemental, your filler spell is Lightning Bolt. And there's a common trend for many, many years that the filler spells, they don't do any damage. So there's literally no point to press them. I have Lightning Bolt on my bars, and I assigned it to like a very good keybind. I have it on 2, but I only press it with my Stormkeeper. I don't cast a single Lightning Bolt ever because it's not worth it. It deals. I'm online right now, my Shaman. I'm hitting the training dummy. It hits for 2k. And
That's
in a
it?
PvP scenario, it hits for 2k. And in a PvP scenario, it would hit even less because the enemy has damage reduction from Verse and
Yeah.
maybe some talents.
Wow.
So it's just completely pointless to cast Lightning Bolt. But this is not just for Elemental. This is the case for many
Yeah.
classes.
Yeah.
Warlock Shadow Bolt
Mhm.
deals half the damage. Like right now in Shadowlands, if you cast Shadow Bolt, it will deal less damage than when you cast Shadow Bolt in TBC. And the same, I think, it also
Whoa.
to Frost Mage to some extent,
Yeah, the frostbolt.
and Wrath also, like for Moonkin, Wrath also only deals like 2k damage. So
Yeah, wrath is
there's
extra.
literally no point to. The emphasis is really on the finisher spells, on the consuming spells, not really much on the builders. Like in WoW, you have spells that build up your resources, and you have spells that consume your resources. And the way it is designed right now, your fillers, your resource generators are pretty much useless, and your resource spenders are extremely powerful.
Yeah.
And the same applies to Elemental.
and and I think and we recognize that as well with the whole borrowed power and the conduit. The conduit seemed to be all geared towards amping up those spenders and not really doing much for the other ones, which is
Mm.
unfortunate. Um, actually, are there Well, I get. Hold on, because there's also you have your talents. You have your regular talent tree and the PvP talents. Why don't we kind of reach into the talent tree first? And is there any is there like a one build fits all, or is there a build that you or some talents you switch around depending on your comp or your play style or whatnot? What?
Yeah, I mean, certainly.
Okay.
I mean, do you mean the like the baseline spec that you use right now when you enter the arena or you enter a BG?
Yes.
Yeah, so when I play arena or I play PvP on my shaman, I join the game with the same spec every time, and then I maybe do one or two tweaks depending to what scenario I'm in. So you always play Echo of the Elements for the double lava burst charges. I always play Echoing Shock because it gives you some very needed burst potential. And then I always start the game with Earth Shield selected.
Okay.
Earth Shield is, I would say, like in 70% of the time I would play Earth Shield. It's just very good because you're not always the target, but you can help your teammates with it. So that's why it's very good. You can heal yourself or your teammates. If you face some melee cleaves, though, you asked me earlier about tips against melees if you need to kite. Well, the Spirit Wolf talent gives you damage reduction and movement speed, which if you face the same team or you have the same scenario over and over again, or you're playing Warsong Gulch, Battlegrounds, you want to carry the flag, Spirit Wolf is very, very nice. If you have issues kiting people and you don't like to get tunneled by melees, you should certainly try Spirit Wolf, and you're just going to run around the map with very high speed. It's very fun.
All right.
And then Master of the Elements is pretty much mandatory. It's just very good for PvP. You don't really play Storm Elemental. That's more of a Mythic Plus talent, as far as I know. So I tried Storm Elemental like once or twice for fun, but it doesn't really have a place in Arena.
All right.
Then Nature's Guardian is the only like real defensive option you have there. So I play Nature's Guardian every game. Primal Elementalist is very nice because it gives you access to another defensive cooldown. You kind of see there a pattern. Like you, as Elemental, you're kind of squishy. So if you can pick something, or you can do something that makes you stronger defensively, you pick that.
Of course.
And Nature's Guardian gives you a little bit of healing when you drop low. Primal Elementalist gives you access to the improved Earth Elemental, to the Primal Earth Elemental. That's the name, and it can give you a shield wall, 40%. Once every 5 minutes, so that's the reason you pick it.
Solid.
And then finally, Stormkeeper. It's a short cooldown. It deals a lot of damage. It just fits very nice into like a PvP scenario. Much better than the other two fit right now.
Yeah, and that I have to admit, like a lot of those, you read them and you can see where everything lines up to the PvP. I was a little surprised though. I know Master of the Elements, that's a really good one because you get that extra the extra damage after you lava burst for your next spell. But I thought Liquid Magma Totem looked pretty interesting as well on the 1 minute cooldown. But I guess it just doesn't match up because you're doing lava burst so often that then it just makes sense that you'd want the Master of the Elements. I guess your overall damage would be increased.
The main source of damage is Flame Shock is usually your number one because you're playing the Skybreaker legendary. So Flame Shock is usually your number one source of damage in a PvP scenario. Then Lava Burst should be slightly behind on number two. And then the remaining damage might come from a combination of Stormkeeper, Lightning Lasso, and Earth Shock. And Earth Shock is also probably like top 4, top 3. And you just need Master of the Elements to buff your Lasso, to buff your Earth Shock, to buff your Stormkeeper so they do more damage. So that's just how it goes in
That makes
Arena
sense.
or in PvP in general. Like you need some kind of modifier to buff your finisher. Earth Shock is your finisher, if that makes sense. So if you can buff your finisher by 20%, it's pretty good.
Yeah. And like I said, like that makes sense. Like I said, the magma totem, I probably would have fallen for that trap, but listening to how you were talking initially on your rotation and how you cast and all the casting, Master Elements makes more sense because that plus 20% definitely equals out to more damage overall. So I can see that. All
Like
right.
liquid magma totem is fun. Like I like to press the button, but like other players that if they see liquid magma, they're not gonna like run into it on purpose, right? It's like counterintuitive. Like when you log into WoW, you read the tip of the day or whatever, it shows don't stand in fire. And liquid magma is a bunch of fire on the ground. It's unlikely that they stay in it voluntarily.
Yeah.
They're most likely going to run out. So that's where it kind of falls short in PvP.
Ooh. I wonder how that would work with Ursul's Vortex. Vortex somebody and drop the liquid magma at the same time. Weird things that pop in my head. All right. All right. So that's your talents. And there's a couple nuances there. So aside from, I want to make sure I get this straight. So aside from changing from Earth Shield to Spirit Wolf, is there really anything else that you change on your talent tree depending on who you're up against or who you're playing with? Or is that pretty much the rest of it's all just locked in?
That's pretty much it, to be honest.
All right.
You if you okay, so you pick talents based on the knowledge you have. So like I play a lot of arena. So if I face the same team 5 times in a row and they go on me every single game and I cannot do anything, I cannot play the way I want to play. You could make the argument that you could play Urban Rage over Echo of the Elements if you get really trained down and you can't even cast Lava Burst. You could make the argument to play that, but as soon as you're not the target, like maybe they switch strategy for some reason, then you sabotage yourself picking a much worse talent.
Okay.
So yeah, and besides that, the only other talent you could consider to swap out, you're familiar with the Ventir Priest mind games?
Yep.
Yeah, so some shamans like to drop Nature's Guardian and pick Ancestral Guidance instead, because if you're mind games by a priest and your Nature's Guardian procced, it will not heal you, it will damage you, and
Yeah.
it might kill you. So
I've seen people die to that.
yeah, I think that's every shaman's nightmare right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some. Yeah, every shaman experienced that, dying to mind games and a stun.
Yep. I'd say. So I think if you're up against a disc priest, chances are they're probably playing Venthir with mind games. I'm not sure about Holy Priest though. Or is that the go-to for Holy Priest as well?
Holy priests always play Ventir because they usually play setup based comms like Rogue Mage or Marksman Jungle or Red Warrior, where you have like huge burst windows and where the mind games just contributes to the overkill one shot.
Yeah.
And then disc priests. Some people play Red Warrior with a disc, Night Fae usually, and then Jungle probably the most, or not the most, the best priest comp. Disc priest comp is usually Jungle, but those also play with Night Fae for the extra mana generation.
Oh. I guess it's time to take my disc priest over to Night Fae then, because he's Venthir right now.
if you play Jungle and Red Warrior, you should certainly give Night Fae a try.
All right. I'll do that. PvP talents. So this is the stuff that really makes PvP fun, is all these talents. And you guys, I mean, that's one thing Elemental have. I mean, you have quite the selection. I mean, you got your Counter Strike, you got your Grounding Totem, Lightning Lasso you talked about already. You got the Sky Fury totems, the Static Field totems, Unleash Shield, which, if not mistaken, that was the new one they just added in 9.1, which was looking pretty fun. Same with Control of Lava.
Yeah, Control of Lava is also the new one, the big one, the
Yeah.
important one. Yeah.
So I mean, you only have 3 spots. What do you pick?
Yeah, you're pretty much locked down to the 3 most impactful choices, which are Lightning Lasso
Mm-hmm.
for the stun, for the lockdown, and for the damage it does. Then Control of Lava, because it's really just a nightmare to play Elemental Shaman without Dispel Protection on your Flamestock. So that's already 2 out of 3. And then in 99% of the games, you need grounding to ground Mind Games, to ground Poly, Pyroblast, and whatnot. So those are your 3 choices. You pretty much run 99% of the time.
So what do you do for the other 1%?
There are some comms where you don't need grounding. For example, when I face Red Warrior
Mm-hmm.
with the Resto Druid, like that's quite popular, or Red Warrior Resto Shaman, just as an example, or when I face Turbo, like Warrior Enhancement, I usually pick Traveling Storms instead of grounding.
Okay.
Because like all these warrior comms, they kind of make a go like around like every 30 with their Stormbolt, and playing Traveling Storms cuts down the cooldown of your Thunderstorm to exactly 30, the same cooldown as Stormbolt. So you always have an answer for that. They stun you, they do a go, you can always knock them away.
Nice.
And
That's
and
actually super
not
smart.
just and not just on yourself, but also you can use it anywhere on the map. You can use it on all your teammates with this talent.
Yeah,
So
it's
even
up to
if you
40
are
yards. Like that's huge.
Yeah, even if you're very far, if they make a go on your healer and he's about to die, you can thunderstorm on him as if you're there yourself, and you can knock everyone away.
Wow.
And one extra piece of information, like it's not clarified in the tooltip, but if you play Traveling Storms, you are allowed to cast Thunderstorm in Ghostwolf. If you don't have this talent, it will cancel your Ghostwolf and take you out of the form.
Huh.
So that's not in the tooltip, but it's also like a neat thing to the talent. You can
It is.
thunderstorm while running away in Ghostwolf, which is quite useful when you're tunneled yourself.
Do you think that's on purpose?
I don't know, but I hope it's not going to get removed.
That's okay.
I
Nobody
hope
from
it's going to
Blizzard
stay
listens
there.
to us. Yeah, you're fine. I was just kind of curious. Like, it seems interesting that would be allowed in Ghost Wolf with that talent, but not. That must be on purpose. It's weird. Huh. Okay. So we got Control of Lava, Lightning Lasso, Grounding Totem, or Traveling Storms. And are there any others there that are kind of like in this circumstance or in that circumstance, or again like back to the 5 games against the same comp and they keep tunneling Swapxy, I choose this. Are there any other choices in there, or is it pretty much just those 4?
Yeah, into melees, you could also play the Spectral Recovery instead of the grounding. So if you have Spirit Wolves and if you have Spectral Recovery, you pair these 2s together, you get 40% movement speed from that source, 10% from that source, and then Ghost Wolf itself is 30%. All of a sudden, you have like a base movement speed in Ghost Wolf of 170%. That's a lot. You will easily kite every melee.
And you heal.
And you heal a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the healing is really insignificant, but it's nice to have.
Yeah. I'd say
Actually,
it's better than nothing.
if you are joining Warsong Gulch and you really want to win, you pick Spectral Recovery, you pick Spirit Wolf, and you will cap the flag. I guarantee you. It's very easy to pass the map, or cross the map rather.
Yeah. 170% movement speed. Nobody's gonna catch you.
Yeah, and you cannot be slowed in Ghost Wolf either.
All right, that's it. I'm boosting my shaman. Oh boy, that's just funny. I wonder why they don't. Oh, I know why they don't do that normally, because boomkins with they're just unkillable, almost. All right, so there's that. So there's your talents. There's your PvP talents. plus some really fun nuances depending on what you want to do. I guess so. We already talked Covenant, right?
Mhm.
Is there, I guess, within the favorite Covenant, is there a favorite soulbind? Is there like the one soulbind rules them all?
Yeah, I would say so. Let me. What is? I would have to open the website quickly to check what the different followers are called. I don't
Yeah,
know the name by heart, but give me one
no
sec.
worries.
I have
Yeah,
the website open, I believe.
no worries. I think so. Oh shoot! No, I just totally. It's Necrolord is the one you want, right?
Yes, so you want to be Necrolord and you're going to be
Mm-hmm.
using Plague Divisor Merilith
Ah, yes.
pretty much every single game. I think I never ever picked the other ones even a single time
Is it why? Why is that? Why is what makes Plague Divisor so good?
because you have in the third row, if that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
you have the power called Ooze's Frictionless Coding,
Yep.
which gives you a shield every time you drop below 50%. And a common theme for Elementalists, you are quite squishy, so you pick everything that makes you a bit more tanky, and that makes you a bit more
Mm.
tanky.
That
Gaining a
makes
shield
sense.
every time you drop below 50%, it's a must pick pretty much. And then another reason why it's very good is ultimate form. Every time you cast Fleshcraft, you are immune to CC and you heal yourself a
Yeah.
bunch, which is also another defensive. And at the very bottom, as the special power from this follower or from Merilith, you have Kevin's Oosling, which also synergizes very well with your Elemental Burst. Like every time you press Primordial Wave, which is your Covenant spell, you summon a small little guardian, like a small little blob called Kevin,
Yep.
and he will. Like the important part is there that after you summon him, the target you pressed him on will take 6% more damage for like 10 seconds or so.
Hmm.
So when you primordial wave someone, you want to burst him, right? Like it's like your burst setup. You primordial
Yeah.
wave, you echoing shock, and then you press lava burst earth shock. And if that target takes 6% more damage because you summoned the Kevin on that guy, that's good. 6%
Yep.
is nothing to laugh at. That's a
No.
decent number.
No. And then you add that on all the other bonuses you're getting between your other conduits and whatnot. That adds up pretty fast. Huh.
Yeah.
I like it. It's funny you keep saying how the shamans are squishy and you want to get more defensives because I always remember the old adage of train the blue. It, it seems like somebody who was the receiving end of that devised a bunch of these defensives, knowing that we always try to train the blue.
Yeah. But I think that is very common. Like
Mhm.
every class that plays Necrolord, they all pick Plague Divisor Merilith. There is, I mean, okay, not 100% of the time, but
Yeah,
the very high 90% percentile. So if you play PvP, you want to min-max your character, you want to min-max your game, you play this follower.
yeah, yeah. I think you're right. I think I want to say I think it's one of the DK specs uses Bonesmith, but I think otherwise, yeah, you're pretty much the same. Is that yeah the Plague Divisor is like the go-to. Yeah, you often see Kevin running around in a matchup because of that.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. So, excellent roll in actually. Conduits. So let's say so we got we're 80 renowned. We got all the tiers open. We got Plague Divisor. We know how we want to flow through the tree because we want to get the frictionless coding. We want to get um well, I guess does it really matter between the Kevin's Keyring versus Plagueborn Cleansing Slime? I guess that doesn't. I guess probably keyring because you don't really. If you kill somebody in PvP, it kind of ends the match. So there's that. The rest of it's kind of an easy flow. What are we putting in these other spots? So you got a potency, an endurance, another potency, 3 potencies, and 2 endurances. What are we filling in these spots there, Swapxy?
Yeah, so in my opinion, the best potency conduit you have available is Call of Flame. It increases the duration of your fire elemental, makes it 46% longer duration if you have it at maximum level, which is 252. And yeah, you're playing the Skybreaker legendary, which reduces the cooldown of your fire elemental based on your flame shock crits. So your fire elemental lasts quite a long time, I think around 50 seconds or so. And then you get a bunch of cooldown reduction from your flame shock. And this synergy, the fire elemental being up for so long because of this conduit, and the cooldown being reduced by the legendary, gives you a very, very, very high uptime right now. You pretty much, I would say, like in a good game where I have good uptime, maybe my fire elemental is down for 30 seconds, and then it's up again for another minute, and then it's already only on a 30-sec cooldown or so.
Wow.
And in 9.2, as I talked earlier, there's going to be a new tier set, which will make the synergy even better, so you have it up the entire game, like 100% uptime.
Wow. You're saying that just boggles my mind. Okay.
Yeah. And this comes from the synergy between the legendary, the conduit making the duration longer, the future tier sets in 9.2, which will further reduce the cooldown, and yeah, that's my prediction why I think Elemental is going to be good. Right now, not so good, but in 9.2, for these reasons, these synergies I see there, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to play, and hopefully we're going to be in a good place once again, in a good spot.
I guess. So just gonna take a pause here and just do a little theory crafting in my brain. What's going to be your arch nemesis comp then? Because I'm thinking Warlock. If you're going to be banking so much on an elemental, and Warlocks can just banish your elemental, is that going to be your Achilles heel, I guess, in Arena, or is that not the case?
No, that will be completely irrelevant. You are summoning your Earth Elemental is not about the Earth. No, sorry, I misspoke. Summoning the Fire Elemental is not about the Fire Elemental itself. I mean, it deals nice damage, but you're summoning. When you summon your Fire Elemental, all future Flame Shocks you press will have double the duration, will have increased haste. They tick faster. That's why the Fire Elemental is important, not because it deals damage. A Warlock could banish the Elemental, but you don't care about that. You summon your Elemental, so your Flame Shock becomes stronger. Instead of only lasting for 18, it's going to last like double the duration every time you reapply it.
Okay.
So during your Fire Elemental window, you're going to build up. You're going to build up Flame Shocks on everyone. That's why it's so OP, because usually you can only maintain Flame Shock on maybe 3 targets or so, maybe more. But if you summon your Fire Elemental and you're doing a very good job at spreading your Flame Shock every 6 seconds and spreading your Flame Shock with your Primordial Wave, you can have it up on like 10 targets, which is crazy in Arena because you get Lava Burst proc after Lava Burst proc after Lava Burst proc the entire time.
Okay. So
that is the real reason.
I kind of assumed that if you banished the elemental, that went away. But
no.
Okay.
It will last for the 50-second duration or until it dies. I mean, it has a lot of HP, so it's unlikely someone dies it. But no, banishing the Fire Elemental does
nothing.
I mean, it's the banish lasts for 8 seconds, so I guess the Elemental doesn't do damage for 8 seconds, but you still gain all the benefits of the increased haste, the increased duration of your Flame Shock, which is the important part.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So I guess that's okay. That's completely nullified then. All right. So much that idea. All right. What else? So that's one potency conduit, and then we said we had 3 potencies under this this follower. What are the other ones you're putting in?
The other one would be Tumbling Waves,
Mm-hmm.
which as Necrolord Shaman, you get Primordial Wave. If you are Enhancement, if you're Elemental, Primordial Wave will apply Flame Shock. So you have another way to apply Flame Shock, which is very important. That's why Necrolord is your go-to pick for PvP.
Wow.
And with this conduit, you have a chance to reset the cooldown. So it doesn't have a cooldown, so you can press it twice.
What? Holy shit. Nope. Holy crap.
Yeah, so you really select maybe you see the pattern there. You wanna get your flame shock out on as many targets as possible because that's how you get your damage going. That's how you get your
Yeah.
resource generation going. That's how you get your procs. And yeah, that's also very fun to play like this. So you press flame shock like usually when I enter the arena or like the match starts.
Yeah.
I press flame shock on one target, then I tap target the next guy and press primordial wave. And I'm praying for a reset, and then I have another primordial wave on the third guy, and maybe I get lucky, I get another reset. I cast Flame Shock on the pet, and then I cast primordial wave on another pet. And I did all of this with my fire elemental active, and all of a sudden I have 5 Flame Shocks active, and the game just started 10 seconds ago. And then you will do like 5k DPS, which is not normal in Arena. Usually classes don't do this high DPS in Arena. But on
Yeah.
Elemental, you can do it if you play it correct.
And you get a little lucky.
And you get a little lucky, yes, with the crits.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So that explains why I melted that time. Okay. How often does that happen? How often do you get that lucky?
Every time, because you just have
Every time.
to do if you do a decent job,
Yeah.
like you press flame shock, and the same millisecond it's ready, you just press it again on a new target with your fire elemental active. If you do this, you don't require any luck because
It just happens.
it just happens then. But
Wow.
if you forget to press your flame shock before 5 seconds because you're distracted or you're trying to do something else, then you will fall behind. So just be aware that spreading your flame shock on multiple targets is the most important. Your number one priority. Like nothing is more important than this. And if you do that, you're gonna have great success with Elemental.
Cool. Okay. So what's the third conduit then?
The third one is a bit up in the air because if you compare conduits across all the specs, the elemental conduits are actually not that crazy. Like you don't even have a third potency conduit that is that good. Usually I go with the one that increases healing received on your Earth Shield, which is actually a restoration conduit.
Oh. Okay.
Because you play Earth Shield to help your teammate or yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and this conduit increases the healing received by an additional 10%. And Earth Shield itself also increases the healing received by 10%. By 20%. So whoever benefits from your Earth Shield will receive 30% more healing from you, the Shaman.
Mm-hmm.
So if you cast Healing Surge, it will heal a lot.
Yeah.
And this also works on yourself. So
Cool.
that's usually my go-to.
Okay. That's
And
the
I think the one is called
Embrace of Earth. I'm looking at it right here.
Yes, Embrace of Earth is usually my go-to potency conduit, even though it's a resto one, but it's really good for elemental as well.
Yeah, I can see that.
I noticed that not a lot of people like it. Like I see Swirling Currents as also another potential pick
Mm-hmm.
that I see a lot of people pick. Every time you drop your healing stream, you empower your next healing surge. Your next 3 healing surges actually by a big percentage, by like 30%.
Mm-hmm.
So I see a lot of people pick this. And the only other like actual elemental conduit that could be worth considering is Pyroclastic Shock.
Yeah.
So every time you Earth Shock, you have a chance to extend your Flame Shock, which, I mean, you see like your flame shock is a pretty big deal. So this has some potential, but I just don't like the low percentage.
Yeah, well, it's 30% when it's at current max.
But that is 278 conduit. That's not even in the game yet. That is 9.2.
Oh, right.
The current maximum is 252, which is 27%. But yeah, it's decent, but yeah, it's not that crazy. Like your flame shock should be up on all targets the entire time anyway, so it doesn't really increase your damage, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Oh well, that is unfortunate. And yeah, 27% is, I mean, it's a percent chance. That's still kind of low. That's less than 1 in 3 chance.
Yeah.
And that's when
but
you earth shock. Like how anyway.
Yeah. So, but there's like I actually don't like the elemental conduits that much because they like none of these increase the damage of your fillers or your spenders. I'm trying to phrase it correctly now, like none of these increase the damage of your actual spells. Of course they increase your damage in some way. Like if your fire elemental is up for 15 seconds longer, you're gonna do more damage. But like none of these conduits actually impact your spells, which I don't like. Like
Yeah.
all the other classes I play, like Ratpala and like Boomkin, Moonkin, and like all of these, they have conduits that actually buff the damage when you press your real spells, which I think is stronger and I don't know, maybe also more fun.
I think it's more, it's a direct impact where
it's a direct impact. Yeah.
Yeah. You see that, you know that if you put that conduit in, that you're going to then buff that spell. So when you push that spell, it's going to do more. Versus this is, if you push this button, then that thing is going to buff this, which is then going to buff your spell. Which it's a lot more.
It's more indirect.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. And now I realize at the very beginning when I was talking about that, I was saying how I was agreeing with you that we have all these other borrowed powers that benefit our spenders, and now I realize that I didn't look ahead and read this part of the notes. I feel silly now. I'm sure everybody who's used to listening to the show knows that I make silly mistakes all the time. Okay, I guess what else? What are the other spots then? There's just the one in there's 2 endurance spots. Oh, sorry, 3, because counting depending on which way you go on some of these.
Your best defensive conduit or endurance conduit, I should say, they're called endurance, is vital accretion.
Yep.
So every time you summon your earth elemental, it increases your maximum HP by 34%, which is a lot.
Yep.
And we already talked about primal earth elemental earlier, which gives you a shield wall. And together with this conduit, it makes it a really powerful defensive cooldown. You have a lot of HP while it's active, and it can give you a shield wall, so it's unlikely you're gonna die during that 1 minute where it's active, because you have so much HP and you have the wall available. It makes it a very strong defensive cooldown thanks to this conduit. So this conduit is actually very nice.
That's far superior than some of the other walls in the game.
It's a long cooldown, but it's very strong. So
all right,
it's good it's there.
So since that fills up one of the spots, I guess you're kind of stuck to like astral protection for 1, I guess, or refreshing waters. I don't know.
I mean, astral protection, like if you're playing BGs or you're like world PvPing, maybe, but you cannot use this spell in arena.
Right.
If we're talking arena or RPGs, or you're the only other option is refreshing waters, which increases healing surge, healing on yourself, which is also very good. This is the other option you would go for.
Okay.
But yeah, astral protection, if you're thinking arena or RBG, or astral protection is non-existent, as you can't even use the spell.
All right.
But I'm sure, and you can ank in raids, you can ank in dungeons. I'm sure this conduit might see some use there, but just not in a PvP environment as much.
Yeah. Okay. That's unfortunate. Yeah. I wasn't thinking about what that was saying until you mentioned that. All right. I guess are there any of the conduits we can? I don't think there's any spots left for anything.
I mean, there's one more spot left. There's one more row at the very bottom. You can choose between going the left row, the left side, and picking the slow droplet, and then you have another endurance where you would pick the condensed anima sphere for some little healing.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you go the right side, you can pick undulating maneuvers, which when you take damage, it's like the monk, the brewmaster tanking mechanic. You take the damage in increments over time a little bit.
Yeah.
Some percentage of it. And then you could then the finesse conduits are not like mind-blowing, but they're decent. I mean, personally, I really like Thunderous Paws. When you go in Ghost Wolf, you get some extra movement speed. I really like that one, for example. It's also really nice if you play the Spirit Wolf and the Spectral Recovery.
Yeah.
If you play this conduit on top, then you are actually at 200% movement speed. Or only for a short period of time, but well, it's very fast.
It's the first reset. All right. And that one has an internal cooldown of 60 seconds. So that's not bad though. I mean, 200, like if you can't get away at 200% movement speed and not be rootable, like if you can't get away, there's something wrong. Wow.
Did you say roots?
Yeah.
I mean, you can be rooted and while in Ghost Wolf, you just cannot be. Yeah, you can be rooted in Ghost Wolf. You just cannot be slowed below the baseline movement speed. The baseline movement speed is 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in Ghost Wolf, you can even be slowed in Ghost Wolf, but you just cannot go below 100% movement speed. You will always stay at that number at least.
Okay. I thought that included roots for some reason.
No, it's not only for snares.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you for correcting me, Swapxy. I learned something new right now.
Wait, like I didn't ask this question, but what class do you actually play usually? What's your main class?
Warlock.
Warlock.
And
okay.
Disc Priest.
Yeah, I mean, then if you don't usually play Shaman, then I can totally see how you might mix that up.
Yeah, no, I tried once. I think it was during WAD. I picked up a Shaman and I got through to level level 65 back then. I was going through Burning Crusade and I just gave up. I just couldn't. I think it was WAD. Anyway. Sorry. Well, I was also trying to heal. It was brutal. I was going through dungeons trying to heal, and anyways. All right. Legendaries. What? I guess we already talked about that. Really. Is there?
There's a couple viable picks depending on your playstyle, on your preferences.
Thank you.
Skybreaker's Fiery Demise, I think, is the best one right now. And going forward into 9.2, I think it would also be your best pick. But there's different playstyles. You can play like an overall damage-oriented playstyle. That's what I usually go for. That is the Skybreaker. That's where it's good. It's to do damage all the time. If you want to like really one-shot someone, then maybe you will like the Elemental Equilibrium, which increases your damage by 15% when you press Echoing Shock. Or if you want to play, if you want to do something very spicy, you can play Kyrian Elemental, and you can do the Vesper Totem one shot with the Vesper Totem Legendary.
Oh yeah.
And there's some other play styles, and then you can also play full crit, so the Vesper Totem crits instead of going haste, which you would usually do for the Skybreaker. There's a lot of different like niche builds which work. They're viable. They're just not. They're viable, but they're not reliable. And yeah, Skybreaker is purely reliable. That's why
Yeah.
so many people play it. It's not much can go wrong playing it. You're gonna get the same result every time.
Fair. All right. When you're changing these up, I mean, obviously, it sounds like you're changing up your stat weights and what you're gearing for. But I have to ask, does that change any of the talents we were talking about earlier? If you're changing these legendaries because you're changing your playstyle a bit, or is it again back to all that stuff is pretty much rock solid?
Well, if you want to play for the super one shot, you could play Sky Fury instead of Control of Lava. Like Control of Lava is so good, like you literally cannot drop it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't like this playstyle and you really want to one shot someone, then you could drop Control of Lava for Sky Fury. Or if you don't care, if you get mind games, if you don't care about poly, you could drop grounding for Sky Fury, which is very unwise in my opinion. But
Mm-hmm.
if you want to do maximum damage, you could drop this for Sky Fury to do even bigger crits. You could do that. I'm not gonna tell you to do it because it's not smart, but you could if you want, maybe just for fun.
Maybe when you're in the 1500 bracket, right?
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I guess as you're saying before, it's either build for haste or build for crit, I guess. Or is there a different stat weighting that you'd recommend?
Well, one of the things to note with Elemental,
Mm-hmm.
The crit modifier in the game, it's the baseline crit modifier for spells is 200% in PvE. Historically in PvP, the crit modifier was always nerfed, so you don't get one shot by crits. So for the longest time, it was 150% is the crit modifier. But now in Shadowlands, if you play a lot of Shadowlands, if you watch some streams, some clips of Shadowlands, you probably notice the trend that people explode. They get really one shot from rats, from fire mages. That is because in Shadowlands, Blizzard increased its crit modifier from 150 to 175%. But noting for Elemental, your base crit modifier is actually 250% because you have a passive that you learn while leveling up. So elementals have a higher crit modifier than other classes.
What?
Yeah, it's a passive that has been in the game for I think for a long time already, for many expansions.
I forgot or I didn't know, one of the two. All right. So I guess then do you feel like you don't need to crit? You don't need crit as much, or is that or do you like to build for crit? You want that because you just make people just explode.
No. That means that crit is valuable for Elemental because if you crit, these crits will do more damage than they do for other classes.
Okay.
Having a high crit modifier doesn't mean that you will crit more. It just means that when crits happen, they do more damage.
Okay. So you just want to you want your critical strike chance to be as high as possible then, so you can just make people explode. Is that what you're saying?
Well, funnily enough, I play 0 crit because you need haste to play the game smoothly. But I'm just saying that it's worth to know this. That's all I was trying to say.
Okay.
Like crit is good, and crits are very nice for Elemental because they do so much more damage than usually for other classes.
Okay. All right. For a second, you confused me there for a second there, Swapxy. I thought you were saying because I thought I have a thing here saying that the haste is important, but then you're telling me the crit's important. I was getting all confused.
They're both important. In a dream scenario, you would have a very high haste and very high crit, but sadly, there's only 2 secondary stats on the armor, so it's really hard to get both stats very high.
Fair.
Because there's always going to be verse, right? Like there's always going to be verse, which is in PvP you need versatility to stay alive and to buff your baseline damage. and then you can only pick one or the other, right? You kind of have to pick your poison. Do I want to go for 20%, 25% haste to make my gameplay feel smooth, or do I YOLO it and go for full crit, and then maybe I one-shot people more often, but then my gameplay is going to feel miserable because I can't even do my rotation properly.
Yeah, that's a tough.
So usually I prefer to go for the haste route, so my gameplay feels smooth, but
Mhm.
unfortunately I get less random RNG big crits.
Okay. Okay, huh. So that's tempting though to try to crit build, but I know what you're saying. Like the PvP gear just isn't. There's not enough
But I told
differences
you,
of pieces.
but no, but I told you that there is other viable options. You can play
Mhm.
Kyrian with full crit and
Mhm.
one-shot people with the Vesper Totem Legendary. You can totally do
Yeah.
that. It's viable. It is viable. It's a little bit hard to pull it off,
Mhm.
but if you like to do that, you can do it. It's just not as reliable as the other option, and I usually go for the most reliable build. That's my preferred playstyle.
Fair enough. All right. I appreciate the clarity. I do. Um. So I guess in 9.2, because the trinket bonus is going away. Well, it's changing. So before, like you said,
Changing, yes,
we used to
changing.
get that huge versatility buff, but now that's changing to just a stat not just to a stat buff, fairly significant stat buff. But is versatility stacking still as important since we're not going to get the extra 40%, or is it even more important to stack versatility as compared to
We're
other
talking
things?
about PvP, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there is no PvP gear without Versa. There is one cloak with crit mastery, I believe, and every
Mhm.
other piece is full haste, full Versa, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like we have a choice.
Well, there's PvE gear.
But PvE gear doesn't scale up in Arena in PvP. The PvP gear has
True.
built-in scaling now. So if you play PvP, you want to use the PvP gear, unless
True.
unless you're like a Mythic Raider with access to all the items, which I didn't even think about. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a few selected pieces from the Sanctum of Domination raid which are better than the PvP counterparts. But
Mhm.
then, I mean, I'm not raiding Mythic Sylvanas. I never seen her. So I'm not
Yeah.
going to
Me
get
either.
that one pair of shoulders. I'm not going to get that one chest, which is 1% better. I mean, those items always exist and
Mhm.
always existed and always will exist. But
Okay.
generally speaking, as Elemental, you want to buy full PvP gear from the PvP vendor. And it's going to
Okay.
be Versa on every single piece. And most likely, you're going to pick Haste, Versa Haste. But if you want to play those alternative playstyles with Kyrian or the Equilibrium, maybe you go for crit instead of Haste. But that is
All
up
right.
to you. That is your personal choice.
Cool. It's you have a good point there. The scaling of the PvP gear definitely does make it PvP gear probably the most worthwhile for PvP, which is hey, makes sense. It should be. Um, okay, I guess so. That covers all that. Last, I guess, comps. So we talked about a couple. We talked about the Fire Mage, the Boomy and Arms Warrior,
Kyrian,
Windwalker, Kyrian. Are there any other comps that we haven't covered?
well, not in the current, not in the current iteration of the game, in the current 9.1.5 patch. Sadly,
Mm-hmm.
no. They like historically, like Warlock Shaman, Affliction Elemental, or Destro Elemental used to have good synergy, but not right now. There is not that
Mm,
much variety right now with Elemental. You play with the Fire Mage, you play with the Moonkin. Maybe you find some melee that wants to play with you, some warrior, maybe a Windwalker, but that is pretty much it. I didn't really see anyone play something else and make it work on higher rating.
okay. Are you expecting anything to change in 9.2?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I would be happy to see Elemental plus Warlock being good
Mhm.
again, but I have a feeling that won't happen. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my prediction. You're gonna continuously play with any Mortal Strike class. So DH, Warrior, Windwalker. Do you have good synergy as Elemental? And then the Fire Mage and the Moonkin. Those are gonna
Yeah,
work well.
that makes sense. And I think we already covered how you win. But I guess how would I kill you if I really wanted to try to take out Swapxy? How do I do that?
You find a rogue, or you play rogue yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You team up with a mage. You team up with a priest. You play rogue mage priest. The priest plays Ventir, and he presses mind games while I'm stunned. And chances are quite high that I just drop dead in the stun. That is, I think that's the highest win percentage play you can do.
You're funny. All right, Rod. Okay, so stun you and kill you. Okay, it's like just like pretty much every other class.
Rogue mage priest.
Yeah,
That if other classes stun me, I usually survive. But I think the mind games
fair.
really seals the deal for Shaman from
Yeah,
the
I can
priest.
see
The
that.
mind games is really what kills you. I was logging on the PTR the other day to see if there's any, I don't know, if anything changed that I didn't notice yet. And I was talking to the PvP vendor and looking what he's offering, and I didn't see the Gladiator's Maledict trinket. I didn't see the new version of it. So it looks like the Maledict trinket is gone. At least there's no new version on the vendor right now. Maybe that's an oversight. Maybe it's going to be added later. I don't know. But the Maledict trinket also is really a huge Shaman killer. So if that's gone, that would also be very beneficial for Shaman.
That's a good point.
And there's a bunch of new trinkets now on the vendor that have some other crazy effects.
Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around some of those with like the whole cosmic power dealio, and that's
Yeah, I think the easy way to put it, there's one trinket that sucks away, absorbs from other players,
yeah.
and then puts a maledict on them based on the amount that was sucked away from the absorb. Then there's one trinket which is basically like I'm not sure how to say this, like a hand grenade. You like throw
Yeah.
like a grenade at some location, and after 4 seconds it explodes for magic damage.
Yep.
And then there's one trinket that gives you 50% damage reduction, but only against magic, and it can only absorb like 20k in total.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like 2 different trinkets, which, yeah, one is like an aura mastery / holy ward,
Yep.
and then the other one I forgot. I'm also not like totally aware of those yet. I kind of have to play with
Yeah.
them around to like really understand them. But that's
Yeah.
that's
Same.
what
Same.
I understood from reading them one or two times.
Mm-hmm. I have to admit the one that you said that, like you said, it sucks away the shield and then puts on like a healing absorb like a maledict. Almost seems
Yeah.
like a counter to the fleshcraft. It almost sounds like a direct counter to that,
Yeah.
assuming that it works on that. But
Yeah, I mean, Fleshcraft is an absorb, so it should work. Yeah, you're right about that. I didn't even think about that. But yeah,
mm-hmm.
that trinket should work well into Discipline Priest because of the shields.
Yeah.
It should work well because of the Fleshcraft, and it should work well into mages because they have the huge Blazing Barrier and Frost Barrier and
The
Arcane
Triune
Barrier.
Ward. Yeah.
I mean, mages don't play Triune Ward anymore, but each
I
mage
thought they
spec
did.
they have their own. No, it was nerfed some time ago, so now it's like not common to pick it anymore.
Okay. Oops. Goes to show how. Yeah. Okay. Oops.
I mean, it's kind of recently. It's kind of recently.
Yeah. I think we talked about that on the show. That's what I'm like. Oh yeah. Oops. All right.
Okay.
What? So the one last question I have to ask this because I love hearing everybody's answer. So it's the one thing you would change. So I'll pose this to you, Swapxy. Is this yeah
Elemental.
So Ian
If
Hazakostas,
I could do,
game director.
if I could do anything I want.
Anything you want, but only one thing. You can only do one change.
Oh, only one. Okay.
Only one. What's the one thing you would change about Ele Shaman?
I wish you said I have 3 things to change. Okay, only one. Okay,
That's
can I
what-
do honorable mentions after I mentioned one thing?
You know what? Since it's just me and you, yeah, I'll let you do that.
Okay, so it's hard to pick, but I will just so I don't like that there is a 6-second cooldown on Flame Shock. I think that it's not good. It makes it holds back the class very much.
Mhm.
I don't like that at all. It used to have no cooldown, and I think it should remain to have no cooldown.
Okay.
So remove the 6-second cooldown on Flame Shock. That would be the one thing, if I have to pick one thing.
All right.
But since it's just you and me, I have 2 honorable mentions, right?
Yes, I'll give you 2.
I want my Earth Grab totem back, and I want Gust of Wind back.
Okay. All right. Fair.
So yeah,
Those are good
that
ones.
would be my top 3.
All right. I would change. So being a person that plays Warlock, one of the
Mhm.
things I like to do is like if I get a drain life going, it's a channel,
Yeah.
but once I have it on a target, it doesn't matter. Like they can try to line of sight me, they can whatever. It keeps channeling, right, until I'm interrupted, or until the cast is done. And listening to everything we were talking about, I think I would like Lightning Lasso to get that treatment, where even if a character is life gripped out of line of sight or out of range, that the lasso still keeps going. That the only way to stop it would be to kick or to stop the channel. So
Yeah. I have like a
yeah, that's one
random
thing I'd
idea.
change.
I have
Yeah.
a random idea as you say this. The lightning lasso, instead of being channeled by the shaman,
Mhm.
maybe it could be channeled by, I'm not sure, like a cloud, like that the shaman applies to the target, it's like a cloud casting like the lightning, maybe,
Okay.
and it follows the guy around. That would accomplish your goal, right?
Well,
Or
that's,
maybe the shaman summons lightning around him, and then it's like right now it's like the shaman casting it from his hands, basically, right?
yeah.
But maybe
Well,
there could be some other source around him casting the lightning.
Maybe. Well, I mean, it's the same thing with a warlock. When I go to drain life, it comes out of my hands, and I'm just sucking the life out of somebody, right? So,
Mhm.
but I mean, if somebody, I guess the difference is that if I'm draining life, they can still move around versus lightning lasso. It stuns the target too. So,
Yeah,
but
they're locked down in place. Yeah.
yeah. Oh well, but I thought that'd be kind of cool, is if that part of the spell still kept going, even if somebody tried to like you said, life grip the target away out of range of lasso. At least give you a little bit more play on that, rather than being shut down every other way. So, all right. Well, that's that. Thank you very much, Swapxy. I guess we'll roll into the PvP news of what's been happening those last couple of weeks, and then we'll roll out of here so you can get some sleep.
Okay. Yep. Thanks. Thanks for having me. It was fun talking about all these things.
Yeah. Well, my pleasure, man. My pleasure. Do you want to I know it's pretty late for you. Do you want to stick around for the news, or do you want to head out? I'll leave it to you.
I will stick around for a couple more minutes and just watch the show.
Okay. All right.
And if there's any more questions or something, then I will be still here for a little bit longer.
All right. All right. Well, I'll run through this pretty quickly. We'll see how it goes.
All right.
Okay, sure.
Who ordered up an extra large can of whoop ass?
All right. So I guess, like I said, quickly for the news. So Flarkness, he hosted another 3v3 tournament back on the 5th. Pretty short notice over on his Discords where he announced it, and I think in his BNet groups as well, if I saw correctly. A quick shout out to Tigger, Chopped, and Poppin' Wings for winning that one as a Resto Druid Windwalker Ret comp. So surprise, surprise that they won. It was actually quite exciting at the very end. It turned into a 3v2, where that being the Resto Druid, Windwalker, and Ret. I think it was the Resto Druid died, and then it came down to Ret Warrior, Ret Paladin and Windwalker. They end up taking it and winning. If you watch the WoW highlights or the WoW daily, the last part of the game, there was a clip that showed up on that recap as well. So shout out to them. They won the $600 community funded prize pool. So congrats. And again, if anybody wants to, no experience necessary. Just follow Flarkness's Discord. I host them every once in a while, and you just solo queue. He has an algorithm, pairs you up with 2 other players, and you go at it and try to win. So it's usually pretty fun. Oasis, they did their Valentine's 2v2 tournament on the 11th and the 12th of February. It was actually it was actually ran like 2 separate tournaments. So on the 11th, Team Fax won with Feed God X and Shad M2 playing Mistweaver Windwalker comp. And then on the second day, it was Denial of Service, which was the multiple rank 1 Gladiator Mud playing his Arms Warrior, and he was teamed up with a teammate called Ugly Bald Baby, who was a feral druid. So congratulations to both those teams, and good job to the community. That was again completely crowdfunded, and that was $145 prize pool. I'd mentioned hotfixes, but there actually weren't any that were PvP related that I can see. I think there's some that are slated for 9.2 that are dropping next week, but as far as actually happened, nothing really recently in the last 2 weeks. Mentioned it earlier, the Classic Arena Tournament, the actual top 16, so top 8 North America, top 8 Europe, is this weekend coming up. Last weekend, though, was the qualifiers, where I think there's over 100 teams in EU. I'm not even sure how many on the NA side, and they burned through all the qualifier rounds to get to the top 8 in both those regions. So I know we tweeted on the Technically PvP Twitter of some of the people that were streaming from their points of view. You can go check those out over there. Otherwise, over on YouTube, you can watch the actual games and see who ends up with the lion's share of the prize pool. It's 100K total, so 50K for each region that people are fighting for. And with that, of course, we'll see the typical desk that we've always seen with Vendruki, Supatis, and Zico as the shoutcasters, and Aya hosting the desk. So congratulations to them for doing that. And again, looking forward to seeing them. I always look forward to the Supa squeals as somebody's about to die. Is how I know somebody's going to die. I mentioned it earlier. 9.2 is dropping next week. With that means the end of Shadowlands Season 2 for the MDI for Mythic Plus, and Arena or rated PvP, really, all totaled. So for North America, it doesn't actually end with the servers going down on the 22nd and the 23rd. The season actually ends the evening before at 10 p.m. Pacific time. So that's 10 p.m. on the 21st for NA and 10 p.m. on the 22nd for EU. And with that, Season 3 is going to start on the week following on March the 1st or 2nd, depending on which region you're in with the weekly resets. Our friend Lika over at drustfire.com has published some pretty cool stats over on his Twitter feed, basically showing what Season 2 spec representations look like. And also he sorted that out, showing that there's actually a number of rank 1 spots being held by people on their mains and their alts. So I have links to the Twitter posts on that if you want to go over to the show notes and you find those there. Or if you want, just go follow Dressfar on Twitter and you'll see them there. Last thing, the 9.2 date being announced, and the PTR, it received a slight little update and then got flagged as the candidate version. That, like I said, we've previously talked about this before, but now the tier sets and the tier set bonuses are all fixed in place. We won't be seeing anything. So I'm going to ask everybody, the listeners, what do you think about these bonuses? Are you excited to see them in PvP? And if so, which ones are you excited to see? Is it for the class that you like to play, or is it for maybe one that you want to get into and you've been kind of holding off, and this is going to entice you? Please let us know. Again, over at the Discord, the Warcraft Radio Discord, we'll have links for that in the show notes, or tweet us, technically PvP over on Twitter. So with that, I guess, Swapxy, I'm going to ask you quick. Do you have any shout outs you want to give before we close the show out?
Well, I'm not sure. Shout out to you for having me on the show. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure, man. All right. Well, I guess I'm going to flip it right back to you. Shout out to you for joining me. Thank you very much. Little short notice to ask you to join, but I appreciate, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's not very often we get people from Europe because it's so late. So I appreciate you being able to stay up and participate in this too, and just be so much information. I really appreciate that. All right.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. I guess, so you mentioned your Twitch, your twitch.com/Swapxy. Is there any other places people can find you on the internet?
Well, maybe my Twitter, which is the same as the Twitch. It's just @Swapxy. If you want to follow me there, you can find me there. I don't post a whole lot, but probably the Twitch channel where I stream occasionally.
All right. And I have to ask you, are you a frequenter of the official forums there? Can we find you over there or over on Reddit maybe? Or are you just...
No,
No?
Okay.
No,
I don't use Reddit or the official forums.
Not a problem. Okay. That's fine. I don't really pay much attention to the official forums either. So I guess for that, if anybody's looking for us, you can, as always, find a contest directly over on Twitter at technically_PvP. We have an email address, technicallypvp@gmail.com. Again, we got the Warcraft Radio Discord. And over at warcraftradio.com, you'll find that there's a podcast directory with us and a ton of other great shows, not just the ones under Warcraft Radio, but pretty much everything Blizzard related under the sun. And if you really want to, if there's a show there that you like, they also have a review system. So you can, drop a comment, give a few stars, depending on what you think, 1 to 5, and help other people know what you think of the shows. Again, links for all this is going to be in the show notes. I want to thank everybody for listening. Thank you very much again, Swapxy, for joining us. And good night, everybody. Have a good one.